Growing up is ugly, in more ways than one. As a kid, and even now, I dreaded growing old. There was this weird stigma around it. Growing up is seen as a loss of innocence, a hardening of the soul, becoming less pure and childish, an overall transformation of fire. However, because of this, in my youth I clung onto shows that didn't age, that showed even adults still acting cute, and that is of course through moe anime, and at least specifically for me, Sailor Moon and Kirby Right Back At Ya. Yet, this is a strange phenomenon. Why is growing up so terrible and ugly, especially through a child's eyes, to the point where it's heavily a feared thing? Well, in 2005, a 4-episode OVA titled Alien 9 wanted to solve that question while still being a cute moe anime, but getting to the dangers of growing up. If you haven't watched Alien 9, it is a 4-episode OVA that was mostly used for promotion of the manga. Although the manga continues after the show, I just want to talk about the OVA today. The show itself is about Yuri, a crybaby elementary school student who gets put into a task force set to defeat the invading aliens. With each alien encounter, more and more depressing and psychological themes are brought up. It is the classical moe subversion trope, as seen in plethora of shows like Madoka Magica. However, it does it in a very unique way. There's no sudden large twist that completely subverts and shocks the audience. The show is off-putting from the get-go. Everyone acts completely normal to this abnormality, that aliens are coming down and kids have to defeat them, where it almost feels silly to question it. It lets the audience be put into the shoes of Yuri, a kid who doesn't understand what is happening but understands it needs to happen. And if we need to know anything, an adult would tell us. Instead of this big event with a large emotional impact, it's just unsettling and awkward. It's a very cool directorial choice that makes the audience feel like a lost child again. The Alien Extinction Squad has Yuri and 2 other girls, them being the enthusiastic Kasumi and responsible Kumi. To defeat the alien invaders, they wear frog-like creatures on their heads called Borgs. It is a symbiotic relationship, where these gross and yucky aliens protect their host, only if they are allowed to feed by licking their backs. It's strange and uncanny, yet is pushed upon the children almost as a certainty, something they need to get over and be okay with. The Extinction Squad is a very simple metaphor for the responsibilities we take on as we grow up, and the Borgs a metaphor for how our bodies change with it. Each girl has a different reaction to this responsibility. Yuri hates all things growing up, responsibility, and overall non-cute things. She is a crybaby and sees herself as weak. It's not that she is just afraid, but simply thinks she is not strong enough to act upon her own life. Kasumi, however, sees responsibility as this noble privilege. You only get responsibility if people trust and value you, and to be valued is to be loved. And finally, Kumi sees it as a need of survival. She has to be responsible to protect the ones she cares about, and to give out the love she doesn't get. Responsibility is a key part of growing up. It is almost a rite of passage that allows children to understand leadership, care, and the ability to pour passion into something they deeply feel for. However, responsibility only works if the kid wants to be responsible for it. Both Yuri and Kumi were forced into this role, outcasted by their classmates, and forced into something they don't want to be. Even when Yuri complains and talks to a teacher about leaving, they simply say she can't. It was the role she was voted into. And so what happens, instead of fostering love and care through childish wonder, contorts it into the uncomfortability of forcing yourself to care for something. This analogy of forced leadership is carried further when we meet Miss Hisakawa. Miss Hisakawa is the teacher in charge of the extinction unit. She almost describes everything to the girls like a sex ed teacher, very clinical, with a detached feeling of not wanting to get too close. This is because Miss Hisakawa is also an alien. She orders down the alien intruders to help foster the girls into strong soldiers, so they too will eventually become one of them. She's pushing them extremely hard this year because she wants to beat one of her colleagues, meaning she just sees the trio as numbers to cultivate into something, products to be managed and made useful. Childhood is about experiencing everything and deciding what is worth your time, but instead, adults choose what you're worth. With this outside pressure, it manipulates the childish essence of wanting to experience the spectrum into a constrained funnel into what would be the most useful to society. In this case, a future aliens have already chosen for them. And so, The anime starts with this foundation of the twisting of childhood, of what growing up is supposed to be, and how adults manipulate it into something useful to them. Even the weapons they use are roller skates and lacrosse rackets. Items originally used to have fun, now subverted into a more clinical and dark use. It's a cute moe exterior stained with alien guts. In the second episode, we actually get to see the effects play out. The aliens that attack this time are also symbiotic and attach onto 3 boys. The boys attack the girls with their tentacles. It's a very clear allegory of how the kids aren't just being forced out of their childish whims, but also forced to mature emotionally, which includes sexuality. We see this in full swing where after a lackluster performance by Yuri, she begins breaking down and crying, says how she isn't good enough. And so, their teacher, seeing them as numbers and not caring about the consequences, forces Yuri to go feed the aliens by herself, a trial by fire. It is while she is here, the 3 boys gang up on her, stabbing her and trying to kill her. It is a terrible and mortifying scene. Yuri can't do anything. She just cries and hopes that someone will come save her, feeling completely useless. That is until she is forced to mature. The alien evolves and destroys everything around her. The teacher comes and is mortified, but doesn't say anything. Yuri then breaks down, bawling, broken, and desperate for comfort. Later on a phone call, the teacher doesn't even bring it up, or feel remorseful in the slightest, just somewhat worried that she might lose her job. This scene makes me feel sick. It's the consequence of what happens to someone who is forced to grow up. This seen as a tool or a symbol rather than a person. It's understandable to want to push someone like Yuri to be more responsible. I mean, she hates growing up to the point where she even dreads her own birthday. Yet, instead of pushing her into something she clearly does not want to do, give her more options. Practice gentle pushing instead of forcefulness. When forced, childishness is strangled and wrung out into hollowness. I think the reason why moe culture is so popular is because of this. Society forces children's purity out because of its negative connotations. Being pure and childish is related to naivety and whimsy, all traits that are deemed unproductive by the public. And so, with anime, you can use it as an escapism tool to help relive being a child again. I wouldn't say Alien 9 is one of those escapist shows, but is it brilliant as showing the horrors of what childhood can turn into? In episode 3, we see the aftermath. Yuri is completely broken, wants to leave, and has some pretty extreme PTSD from the event. And so, the trio, including Yuri's friend, decide to go out and have some fun. This is a very strange episode. So far, the last 2 have been slowly contorting and draining the childishness out of our main cast. However, in this episode, there is no alien fighting. It is purely a cute and adorable beach episode where we get to learn more about our other characters. This is also one of the few episodes where the kids are alone without any adults, and the environment and lighting reflect that with its beautiful colors and soundtrack. There is a sense of freedom, recovery. This is the happiest we ever see them. It is the pure essence of what it means to be a child. We even see some growth. Yuri goes out and faces her fears because of her friends. This is the most change we get from her in the show, and it's without a single adult. However, not all is well. We see each character's lingering trauma with how society has affected their childhood and their identities. Yuri suffers through terrors from her incident with the boys, forever afraid that she is too weak. Kumi is shown to have taken care of her own family, and because of that, doesn't allow her to create the meaningful relationship she wants, and instead takes a more parental role. Finally, Kasumi's family only values someone based on their accomplishments, making her have this heavy reliance on others for her personality, afraid that once alone she will dissolve into nothingness. It might be surprising to say that this is my favorite episode. I personally think it's a perfect representation of the lingering effects growing up too fast has, where no matter what, you can hang out with friends, you can age, you can become better, but what has happened to you will forever weigh on you and your development. It's unfair, it's cruel, and it's heartbreaking. When growing up, children's identities are like water. It's ever-changing, trying to find a proper form. and so they often imprint and change based on the people they trust, which are often adults. It's that naive trust that often bruises or blesses, forever deformed and changed, that makes each character act the way they do. However, when they are put in an environment where they are allowed to express their emotions and slowly change based on the people they love and care for, we see the best growth and happiness. I mean, Yuri has so much fun that she has nightmares about going back to school and losing all of this. It is an excellent showing of how childhood is one of the most terrifying experiences, but also the most rewarding. The episode ends with the trio becoming closer than before. They no longer see each other as part of the same team, but now part of the same family. They get better at exterminating, not because they care more about defeating aliens, but because they care more about each other. It's crazy what will happen when kids aren't seen as numbers. Thank God this happiness lasts for at least an episode, right? Episode 4 is rough to say the least. The group goes against Yellowknife, the first alien to use psychic attacks instead of physical. The alien lures in Kasumi via her fear of loneliness and attachment to her overseas brother. The alien then uses his fear of loneliness on the other girls. They get separated as the heavy weight that is being alone takes them. There's even this horrifying scene of Kumi, who we never see cry, begging for her dead father.
Daddy, help me! Daddy, help me! Daddy, help! No.
However, this is just more of the PTSD and trauma we see from the last episode. The more important part is how it now affects the interpersonal relationship of the girls as well. Because they almost have this codependent and trauma-bonded relationship to each other, which makes every other emotion they feel even more intense. Loss of innocence primarily affects the self, but because it is so heavily related to identity and feelings, it also impacts how you interact with others. We see this when Kumi and Yuri eventually dig into Yellowknife to free Kasumi. Kasumi fights back because of how heavily manipulated she is. Because of her insecurities built on how she was raised, she fully trusted in a being that could give her everything she desperately wanted, turning her back on her friends. Trust is such a crazy thing with children, because it's often given out freely with your whole heart. The reason why we don't do this as adults is because we get hurt and learn. It's like the idea of letting a child touch a hot stove to let them get burned, so they know not to touch it again. That isn't just for physical ideas, but also mental. As children, you get lied to, manipulated, contorted, and you start to realize it and harden yourself. And that's what most people call growing up. There's almost a synonymous relationship with getting hurt and being a child. Phrases like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire, and so on. To be a kid is to be hurt by the world. But what should be hurting isn't the people above you, but your own adventures. As a parent, even shielding kids can be hurtful. Forcing them into what you think is the safest, or being neglectful, it feels impossible. Yet the simplest solution is letting kids be kids, an idea that for some reason seems impossible to do. However, because we adapt to how we are hurt and respond accordingly, we act similarly to the things that hurt us. Eventually, Kumi and Kasumi get into a physical altercation, where Kasumi is literally gripping the life out of Kumi. Yuri is too afraid to do anything. However, with her insistent pleading and not attacking, believing in Kumi's ability to remember them, the alien stops manipulating her, and everything is over. They all cry, hurt, and forever change, and that's where the show abruptly ends. The manga does continue, but at least for the theme of this video, it wraps it up nicely. It's a cycle. Children are innocent, they get hurt, they become less innocent but heal, they get hurt again because they're innocents, and over and over. And so a lot of people are disappointed with the ending because it does have some cliffhangers, but I think it works. The show perfectly encapsulates my feelings on moe culture, where we watch cute things to help repair the feelings that we felt as a child. You can't save the characters in Alien 9 from this vicious cycle, but it's also important that the show never puts blame on any single one of them. The children are never labeled as the bad guys, or even their actions as bad, because they are simply children who are affected by others. It's not their fault. You can't save yourself, or it happened to you as a child, and it will affect you and how you interact with the world for years and years to come. But being able to experience what childhood should have been, to watch characters enjoy life, have fun, and understand it's not your fault is amazing, and in my opinion, is why moe culture is so popular. It's able to do this because anime doesn't exist in the real world. It's one of the few places where childhood innocence can be preserved. Although you can't save your inner child, you now have the chance to spoil it as much as you can, and give the new generation what you never had. And so although Alien 9 definitely has its problems along with its extremely short length, I think it is a beautiful showing of what childhood is about, what being a child is about, which is just simply living and being yourself. Yet, that's not useful to society, and so we hate the idea of growing up. It feels like you're being told who you are now is not useful. However, just like the girls in the show, as we grow and get older, we can reflect, heal, find community, and even find love in the pain that's almost a universal bond now. It's beautiful in a way. To be a child is to be hurt and loved, and only really being able to do something about it far too late. So go out there and watch Sailor Moon at night and eat ice cream, even if it does feel childish, because that child that you once were is still a part of you. OMG, hi, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and follow my Twitter if you want to. Thank you, bye.